right, Joburg property owners, put down the coffee. You need to pay attention because time is running out. You have until the 31st of March to view, inspect and object to any new property valuations. So the city has extended the window to view the general valuation roll. And for the first time, and this is probably the best news out of everything, you don't have to stand in a queue. You don't have to take time off work to visit its offices. The roll is available online and objections can be submitted on the system. But let's start with why this is actually all happening. And thankfully, we have an expert on this joining me back with us, Angela Rivers from the Johannesburg Property Owners and Managers Association. Angela, thank heavens you're here to help me make sense of this. Let's start with the why before we get to the how. Why is this happening and why now?
So this actually does happen it's supposed to happen every 4 years. The city reevaluates your property in order to make sure that you are paying the rates that your property is valued at. The money that we pay to those rates are for public service, roads, road upgrades, public services like health, education. So those rates that we pay on the value of our property actually is what's supposed to keep the city going and functioning as a proper city. And it does happen every 4 years, but this is the first time that we've ever done it online. So I think everyone's probably a little bit taken back by the constant hype of it in the media, but it does happen every 4 years.
Yeah, I
think during COVID, just a year.
I think everyone is getting a little upset, as you'd imagine, Angela, because everyone is spending more money than they need to, what they want to spend right now. Any extra money is going to upset residents anywhere in the country. But this is not every property in Joburg as well. Let's get into the how of all this works. It's not every single property in the city. How do we know if our property is being reevaluated?
So what I would recommend, and I actually did it myself yesterday, just in preparation for today, go onto the online system, check your property. You can't object unless you've created a profile. So I would recommend everybody go in, create a profile, link your property to your profile. There are a lot of properties that have been overvalued. And the reason for this is very basic. The valuers that are looking at your properties don't have access to go inside, so they don't know what fixtures you've done. They don't know what state your property is in. So what the valuation roll is, it gives you an opportunity to say, okay, you valued my property at 800,000 Rand, but I'll never be able to sell it for that because I've got rising water damp, the structure's damaged. They can't see that. So it really is an opportunity to update the city on the status of your property.
It's important as well because you could start seeing rates. I know we talk about rates and taxes, but in this particular case, rates specifically. I'm seeing some reports coming through where if this wasn't done, as you said, about 4 or 5 years ago, some residents ended up paying more than 1,000, sometimes more than 2,000 or 3,000 Rand more for their rates because they didn't bother to check. But now I'm curious, because I didn't know that's how it worked, what's happening on the property. If you want to raise an objection, you've got a certain date to get that done by 31st of March. But how do you raise the objection? What I mean is not logging it with the city of Joburg. You need to tell them that I've got a burst water pipe, or what do you tell them in order for them to reevaluate?
So I'll use my house as an example because I do have rising damp and my property is severely overvalued. I'd never be able to sell it for 1.8 million. I wish I could, but it's not possible. So yesterday when I did the objection, the first thing I did was I went into Windeed and I did an automated report on all the properties that have been sold in my area to get a general value of what the properties in my area are being sold for. What's really nice about the online system is there's lots of opportunities within there to record things. So it asks how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, lounge, what the state of your garden, the state of your boundary walls. And then there are sections where you can say, I have rising damp because of this. I will never be able to sell my property for 1.8. If I look at the properties around me, I feel that 1.3 is a more reasonable valued amount. So within the online objection form, there's lots of opportunities to update all of these different areas of your property. It's quite a detailed system. It took me about a good half an hour to go through the whole process.
And I suppose it's one of those things, you just need to take some time, sit down and get it done. The fact you can do it online makes it easier as well. I suppose the fairest way of comparing what is the potential increase is to go look at your previous invoices that you're getting from the city of Joburg. I suppose that's the quickest way of seeing if this seems fair or not. If you're seeing a 70% jump, you know something's wrong.
Absolutely. Yes, and I mean, I would recommend everybody go and check it, because you think to yourself, well, I live in Orange Grove, I live in Norwood, the properties aren't valued that much or whatever, so you think you're going to be exempt, but it looks like everybody's property has been reevaluated. And I was speaking to Sihle Moore, who's the group head of the property branch at the rates department yesterday, and what's really scary is we have over 800,000 residential properties in Johannesburg, and there are less than 10,000 objections to date. That's scary, because if you wait till the last minute, you're going to end up probably with valuers fatigue, because these guys have to literally go through, if all 800,000 properties object, they've got to go through 800,000 properties. I would recommend getting in early, being one of the first people, so you get a nice, fresh, mentally positive valuer, because I can imagine by the end of March, I'm not the happiest people in Johannesburg.
No, I'm sure they wouldn't be. Try and get there early, try and find somebody in a good mood. And just very briefly, as I say goodbye to you, I've just had on Twitter Mampo Langa messaging me on Twitter, just asking me to ask you quickly, is this only for residential properties? Is it including business properties? And two, when we talk about residential properties, are these standalone properties, or does it include those who live in complexes and estates? I'm not sure if you can elaborate for Mampo.
Yeah. So it includes all properties, from commercial to residential to industrial. So if you own a property, check the valuation roll. And then if it's a sectional title or freestanding property, then you will object as an individual. There are a lot of high-rise buildings, as you know, that's my industry, is the affordable housing. So those property owners who own high-rise properties will be doing their own objections. So if you're a tenant, you don't have to do an objection. It's only if you own the property, whether it's a full standing building, a sectional title, or a freehold property.
Well, I appreciate the clarity from Mampo, and I'm sure many other people were wondering that as well. Angela, always great to have you with us. Try and unpack what could be quite a messy process. Looks like it's quite easy this time. Angela Rivers herself even going through it. From the Johannesburg Property Owners and Managers Association, a reminder for Joburg property owners, you have until the 31st of March. I really would recommend that you just go and double check the value of your property. You could end up paying thousands of rands more for just simply not taking a look at the value of your property.